Hey Saber fans, welcome back to part 4 now of Let's Build a Saber. So today we're going to be working on switches. So we have 3 common switches here that we use. And the first one here is a 12mm dual tactile switch. You can see 2 momentary switches here. All these are going to be momentary switches because that's what we use when we're using a soundboard. The latching switch is what you would use in a stump saber because you don't have the soundboard to control the on and off. But these are all momentary switches. So this one you can see here is just 2 switches and they're wired individually. You can see 2 wires coming off of each switch. Pretty much with these is what you're going to do is you always have to have 2 of them, a common lead coming off of 2 switches. So say for example you would take a purple and a white wire and solder them together, and then you would have that common between the 2 switches, and then that would run down to the saber and then down to the soundboard, and then you would have 1 white wire here for say your main switch, and then this other purple wire here would go down to your auxiliary switch. So that's a common one that is used for sabers. You also have just a non-illuminated. This is another 12mm momentary switch. You can see here, no click. Pretty simple to wire up. You can see on the back side there's just 2 prongs. Doesn't matter which is which. There's no positive or negative. It can go either or. One part usually goes to one part of the board, and then usually to a common ground, and then the other part goes to whatever the designated switch port is on the main switch. So this is set up for if you're just using a 1 switch in your saber setup, you could just go for this one. I actually prefer the non-illuminated ones over the illuminated ones, just because there's less that can go wrong with them. These LEDs on this illuminated one here can burn out every once in a while, so it's just one more thing to worry about. And then you have 2 additional wires that you'll need to wire up for this one to work. So this is just another 12mm momentary switch, but this is an illuminated one. This actually has a red ring, and you can test that with our little tester here. I always like to test these to make sure they work, just like our LEDs in the previous tutorial. So you'll see actually back here on the back, you'll see a positive and a negative terminal. The positive there is on the left and the negative is on the right. So you're just going to take your positive here and connect it, and then tap it to your negative, and then you can see that it illuminates red. So you know that LED works and is good. Always a good practice to test them. So let's go into wiring this up. So most are going to be pretty much the same wiring and setup for most soundboards, but you do have to check your diagram to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So let's fire up our soldering iron here. Let's clean off the tip, get it nice and shiny. And we're going to tin all of our joints. That's one. I like to use a vise here, brings it closer to my eye level. Ooh, and that's a little hot there. Three and 4. There we go. So we have those tinned up here. So let's grab some wires here. And we're going to take a quick look at our diagram. And this is why it's always handy to have your diagram here too. the wiring schematic. So if we take a look at the Crystal Focus 10 board, since that's the one we're going to be wiring up. So we're going to be taking the negative lead for the LED, and then one of the switch prongs, it doesn't matter which one, and those two are going to be wired together because this needs to connect to this port, this solder joint right here. We're going to take the positive for the LED, which is, remember, marked on the switch as a positive. That's going to need to be resistored, and then that goes to the soldered pad here, and that's good. So if you read down here in the directions, it tells you that that will put it into deep sleep mode, so that will shut off when the saber shuts off and goes into deep sleep mode as well. That's always a bonus because you don't want that little LED draining on your battery. And it doesn't drain much, but over time it will take your battery down if you don't have a kill key in, so I always like to solder it to the deep sleep mode pad. And then the other leftover switch pad goes to your activation switch, and then we don't have to worry about the auxiliary switch because we're not using one. So we're just going to have 3 wires coming off of the switch area. So this is going to be the negative right here on the top. So let's grab our 30 gauge wire. And grab our black. Turn off a small piece here. Another small piece. Those two are going to be joined together. We'll go with, let's see, let's go with purple. That's why it's nice to have all these colors. We'll go with purple for our positive. Just use our LED here that we wired in the previous terminal, previous section, to get the length of the wire that we need. Snip that off. And we need one more. Orange for the other switch wire. Measure that out the seam. Purple. And that's there. We actually need one more long piece. Back to the black again. And one longer piece. We join these together. We'll just measure it out the same length. Just the orange here. There we go. So now we have all our wires set. And we can start soldering up our switch here. Switches don't draw that much power, so you don't need heavy gauge wire. 30 is fine for them. Get off our soldering iron here. Tin our wire. Go, and then rotate it to one of the other switch wires here. go. You want to make sure you butt that wire right up against the prong there. Don't have any extra wire hanging out. We'll move on to our positive. Actually going to snip this shorter because we need to add our resistor in. Now, just like the LED, those have to be resistored. The LED on your switch also needs to be resistored as well. You don't want to blow that LED out. So to figure out your resistor you need for that, if you purchase it from, for example, from the Custom Saber shop, they will actually have it in the description, the forward voltage for that LED. And with the calculator, it'll be listed in the description of the video. You'll be able to figure out what resistor you'll need. That's pretty much going to be the one I show you, unless you use something different. The resistor that I use here, which is a 100 ohm quarter watt resistor, and that is for red and amber LEDs. Blue, white, and green use a different resistor. And that's it. Let's get some heat shrink on here. We want to protect our joints. Small pieces to do it. Grab our heat gun, shrink these up. And there we go. You can see, all protected now. And heat shrink gives the joints a little extra strength as well. This out of the way for now. Grab our helping hands. Snip this off just a little bit shorter here. Let's put our 100 ohm quarter watt resistor. I always like to write it on the bag. Which color, red, amber, the ohms, and the wattage. So when you have to reorder, it just makes it easier. A light switch on there. Just the way I like to keep track of my stuff. Slip that down. And that soldering tip off. I always keep saying it, but just a reminder to keep doing it. And we'll get a tin or resistor. There we go. tap. Got soldered on there. Step off the other side. Now, since this is a tiny resistor, we're just going to heat shrink the entire thing. And so doing both sides, like we did on the resistors for the LED. Now remaining purple wire. And you could heat shrink on both sides if you really wanted to, and then heat shrink the entire thing. Not gonna hurt anything. A little bit of overkill. Clean that up a little bit more. Not liking the way that looks. That's a little better. Some heat shrink. We'll just measure it a little bit bigger than the whole thing here. Give it a little squeeze, kind of pinch it up around the part. There you go. Now it's all secure in there. Whole thing's covered, joints are covered, and then you have the whole resistor covered too. So next part here. These a little bit shorter. We're going to make these a little bit longer, so we can twist them up together. Prep our other wire. Tin that one real fast. And I'll twist these up. Try to get them as even as you can. To hold it. Keep them nice and tight together, the joint. All the solder kind of wraps around the joint there. And that's it. good. So let's grab a little bit smaller heat shrink, see if this one fits. That's why it's nice to have these multiple sizes of heat shrink. This one should do it. Beautiful. Pincher. There you go. Now you have all your joints protected and you're all set to go. So last thing we need to do is twist these wires up, get them all nice and neat. Same thing like we did with our LED. Grab our 2 little pieces of tape. So soldering up a switch, even an illuminated one, is not too difficult. Even when you get into 2 switches. Make sure you take your time, get your joints as clean as you can. Don't forget your heat shrink and your resistor. Always important. I'm going to protect that LED. Twist these up a little more in the end. Makes it easier when you're trying to fit it into the hilt. Twist it all the way down. One last step, and that is little pieces of heat shrink here. Keep it all nice and snug. Spread these out. I'll put mine closer to where I have the joints up top. And that is it. That is a illuminated 12mm momentary switch. So that is all set and ready to go. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you have any questions, level 2 of the tutorial, and on our Patreon page you can have one-on-one talks with me if you need some additional help, and I will absolutely get you up and running. Leave nobody left behind with Saber Building. I want you to succeed and have a great time and enjoy building your custom sabers. So until next tutorial, we will see you later. Take care.